On today's episode, you won't find any hip-hop songs about America's independence here. We watched Hamilton. But, not that Hamilton. A different Hamilton. A Swedish Hamilton. Today on Nothing Movies. Welcome back, however you wish.
No, it's great.
I had to reference it at least once. Sure. I considered briefly bringing back my...
I was wondering, how long is it going to fucking take before you would do a Hamilton reference on this?
I sat down and I was thinking of bringing back my Linda Hamilton joke of doing the opening song from Hamilton, but doing lyrics about Swedish counterintelligence. And then I just realized, you know what? I don't have enough history with that. I don't have enough reference points.
You know what's really sad though? I was like, what are the chances that Cass is going to mention both the Hamilton musical and Linda Hamilton on this
first
episode?
minute?
Yep.
We're not
getting it out of the way now.
The episode is still piping hot.
Yeah.
I didn't even wait. I just shoveled that right in my mouth and I burned my mouth on the episode.
Well, you got that out of your system now?
I got it out. I had to, you know what? It's best that we front load it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way. Hamilton's not even as popular as it was like 3 years ago. So
the world has moved on,
absolutely.
But you haven't forgotten.
No, because we're talking about something called Hamilton, so I had to bring it up at least once. And now we front loaded the episode with it, and we never need to bring it up again. Welcome back. However you wish to self-identify, to Nothing Movies, where we ask the question, the fuck is this? It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most anonymous and culturally untalked about movies that they've made and decide whether or not they've got a certain something or if they're just a whole lot of nothing. I'm Kaz Lesgard, and I'm just now remembering that my plan last night was to find out what the Swedish for the fuck is this was. But I forgot to do that. But it would have been great if I had remembered. And I'm telling you, the audience, so you can imagine what that would have been like.
And I'm Jameson Rafter, and I did nothing last night except stay up late.
Except go to the bar and watch Iron Eagle 2.
It was on.
And then he told me all about it. And that's how we found out that Colm Feore is in Iron Eagle 2.
And at one point in his life, he was a young man. Actually, that's a pretty good segue because, as I often do, I was at the bar a couple of weeks ago, and that drew the inspiration for today's episode because they happen to have Jurassic Park 2 on, and I had totally forgot that Peter Stomare, of all people, is in that movie. And I shouldn't have been surprised because that guy's in fucking everything.
He truly is, and I have a similar story to share with you. But yeah, just to finish up the intro. Yes, today we're talking about the 1998 film Hamilton, which we have briefly mentioned on this podcast before, I believe on our Slipstream episode, back when we were discussing the career of Mark Hamill.
That makes sense.
But we have been
You'll
talking
find out
about
why.
this. We're not dipping back into the Mark Hamill pool, though. We are indeed, as Jameson mentioned, talking about the career of the great Swedish character actor, Peter Stomare.
Is that it? Oh.
I just listened to a little clip
Sorry.
of the man himself explaining how he says. I don't think he minds being called Peter Stomare. He just said, that's what North American people do. They put, an emphasis on both syllables, but you kind of have to, from what I was able to gather, you kind of have to throw the second part away. So it's Peter Stomare, which I kind of makes him sound Italian. Peter Stomare.
All right, well, I stand corrected.
There we go.
And,
as long as
I will not make that adjustment. It's just too easy to do it the other way, and that's how my brain has been wired.
Fair enough. Yes, I like Peter Stomare. Ever since I looked it up yesterday, I've been saying it over and over again, and now it's my preferred way of saying it. So you're gonna get both.
Okay, great.
You're gonna get both.
We cater to all audiences.
It doesn't seem like he minds. It sounds like it only minds when people call him Peter Stormare, which he also says is a big no for him. He's not a fan of that.
Okay.
Which I can understand.
Yeah, I can see that. That's ticking me off.
Just listening to it. Yeah. So it's interesting, Jameson, that you were saying. I mean, much like our last episode, Back by Midnight, came about when I was just randomly watching a Rodney Dangerfield movie, and I texted you and just said, we should do a Rodney episode. Yeah, that's basically how this episode came about. You were watching Lost World Jurassic Park, a movie that definitely is on my list of not terribly great movies, but if it's playing on TV, I absolutely will sit down and watch all of it.
Sure, yeah.
I've seen that movie 20 times. Yeah, but you were saying, you had forgotten that Peter Stomare was in that. I ended up having a similar circumstance last night. Right before I was about to go to bed, I'll sometimes just throw a movie on just as sort of like background noise.
No, you watching movies?
To lull me to sleep. Not really watching a movie, but just something I've seen before
Sure.
that I don't have to pay attention, that's just background noise. And just completely randomly last night, I just picked 22 Jump Street, a movie that I completely forgot he's the villain of. He's like third build in that. He's like, I mean, he comes and goes. He's not really like a part of the...
He's more, like, spoiler alert, he's more of like the secondary antagonist. He's the father of the real villain of the movie.
Well, yeah. Now, this raises a great question. When a character becomes like the villain and then over the course of the film kind of gets like delegated down to like henchman status, do you consider them the villain? My way of judging is always, because you're right, Jillian Bell kind of reveals herself to be the mastermind of that movie, but like the final confrontation that those two guys have in that movie is with Peter Stomare on the helicopter.
Right.
That happens after Jillian Bell gets arrested. So is he not the final boss? Because he's the one that gets taken down last. Because there are henchmen that survive longer than the actual villain, but does that make them... Does that jut them up to main villain status? So it's a good question.
It is, and it's worth further discussion, I'd say, from more brilliant storytellers than I. But, I mean, well, let's use Die Hard as an example, all right?
Yeah.
Hans Gruber isn't even...
Excellent point.
Hans Gruber isn't even in a fight with John McClane. You know, it all gets delegated to the goons, and in point of fact, there is that one guy who is still left over after
Hans with the beautiful hair.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, Hans is... Well, no, Hans... Is that his name? No, Hans is the name of Alan Rickman.
Yes.
I don't even remember. Is it Dolph?
I forget.
It's the guy with the beautiful hair that technically dies last.
Yeah.
But also, John McClane doesn't even kill him.
Yeah.
Reginald
he does.
VJ.
He does, yeah.
Reggie VJ. As everyone knows him by. Yeah, so this is yet another episode where we're not tied into any sort of trilogy. A thing that at the beginning of this year...
We promised to do.
We promised to do, and if you might be listening out there wondering if we have abandoned that, my answer to you is maybe. Year's almost over.
Yeah,
honestly.
The problem is we like to stick to our regular gimmicks in the series that we do, so we will have to swerve to do, WrestleMania, and then our 2 months of Halloween, and then we'll do a Christmas episode at one point. So usually, I guess around the start of the year, as we're finding out, that's when we'll do series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need to pick one more episode sometime in November that's just like an episode that we didn't plan, that just comes about one of us watching something randomly and then deciding to do something on whoever the star of that. Maybe it's Colm Feore.
Maybe.
Coming in November, Colm Feore, Canada's own.
You motherfuckers out there never thought the day would come, but yep, lucky you. We're going to talk about the great Canadian character.
The time is now. The time is nigh, Feore.
Yeah, wake the kids. There's good news afoot.
You never thought it would happen.
Yeah.
No, but we're not talking about him today. We're talking about Hamilton, which we chose because it is one of the only movies in which Peter Stormare plays the protagonist. He plays the lead character. Notice I didn't say good guy.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely some shades of gray in this fucking thing that we're talking about today.
So, for a guy who's just perpetually known for playing heavies, I was like, oh, this will be interesting to see him in a heroic turn. Oh boy, that is not what we were signing up for with this movie. You know what's funny about this, though, is that on all the posters that I've been able to find, it's Commander Hamilton as a way to
some of them have the distinction of Commander Hamilton.
But then when the movie starts, the title is Hamilton.
I don't know. I'm sure that's just like a region-specific thing,
Sure,
or even possibly they added a commander in front of it to distinguish it from the other more popular Hamilton. I don't know.
Yeah, retroactively.
Because there's definitely people digging this one up. This is not.
Yes,
this is not a particularly well-known movie on this side of the pond, but obviously it's much more well-known in Sweden because this is, of course, based on the long-running Carl Hamilton novels.
Oh, that makes sense then.
Yes, so there are a lot of people who sort of refer to Carl Hamilton as Sweden's James Bond.
I totally get that.
But there's kind of more of a heavy focus on politics and journalism also involved in them. The The novels were written by Jan Guillou, and that's a great that's a great first step for me saying that this episode is going to be full of me mispronouncing Swedish names and places, because I am not going to say that right. I tap out at Stomare. That's it. I'm giving up.
Did you type it into Google? How do you pronounce this?
Carl Hamilton, aka codename Red Rooster. Okay. First novel came from 1986 and is also called codename Red Rooster, or as it's known in the Swedish term, Cock Rouge.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That is indeed his code name. So yes, it went from 1986's Cock Rouge to 2008's, which has my favorite title, but not if it concerns your daughter.
Oh.
Fuck that bitch.
Jeez.
I don't want to know anything more from here. But yeah, Carl Hamilton, his exploits and adventures have been adapted into 11 different movies and TV movies.
Okay.
The first one is in 1989, which is an adaptation of the first book, codenamed Cock Rouge, starring Sweden's other favorite character actor.
Oh, fuck. The guy who played Giantsbane on Game of Thrones?
Oh no, that would be cool. What is that guy's name?
I don't know.
Christopher Hesvu? No. A much more famous actor than that. He has lots.
If he's even Swedish,
I
don't know.
He has lots of. The guy I'm talking about has lots of sons, Jameson. And
the
sons are
Skarsgård.
all Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So these have all been released in Sweden, and this is really the only one that even escaped stateside.
Okay.
And I don't believe, based on any of the minor research that I did, that it's based on a specific book. So
original story.
It
Gotcha.
jumped to like the GoldenEye portion of the James Bond thing, where it's all like now we're fully out of ideas. Now we're just like making shit up.
Right.
But Peter Stomare, let's talk about the man born Rolf Peter Ingvar Storm.
Mm-hmm.
So
that tracks.
So his name is his legal name is actually Peter Storm, which is pretty fucking badass.
Yeah, why don't he just go by that when he went to Hollywood?
Well, he attended the Royal Dramatic Theatre in Stockholm, and he changed his surname when he discovered someone else in his class had the same name.
Oh.
Stormare in Swedish means stormer, which doesn't add any clarity. I don't know what a stormer is, but apparently it's something in Sweden.
Jesus Christ, what is it with Sweden having a population of people that just share so many names? So like, just brief sports bomb here. I told you before that there's about to be 2 players on the Canucks named Elias Pettersson, or Elias Pettersson.
That's
with the same spelling and everything.
That's too close.
That's ridiculous.
One of them needs to change. One of them needs they need to have like a hockey off.
Yeah. Well, one of them's forward, the other one's a defenseman, so everyone's saying, okay, well the new guy's got to go by DPD.
And look, I'm sure it makes a lot of sense to them, but for us uneducated North Americans over here, the thing of course with Sweden is that like it's so damn close to like Finland and Iceland and Denmark and all of those other places, and it's all like they're all kind of related. But if you met like a Finn on like a bad day with like a couple of pints in him, he'd be all like, "Don't you fucking call me Swedish."
Yeah,
I have to imagine.
Yeah, over there they can all tell the difference just by like a glance. Us, like, no, couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
He did briefly consider, according to Wikipedia, changing his name to Retep Mrats, which is Peter Storm backwards, which kind of would have been awesome. He's a bit of a chaos agent.
Oh man, I wish he would just do like the Childish Gambino thing and put it into like a name generator or something.
Now his filmography, I'm gonna be very selective about his filmography because because obviously at least half of them are Swedish movies that I have no cultural context for. They might be big hits. Yeah. I'm not even going to go there.
Also, it seems like he's in 4 movies a year.
He's in a lot. And the other thing about that too is that like he's in a lot of North American movies, but a lot of them don't exist. A lot of them are straight to video and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's a big fixture in the horror world.
Oh yeah.
He loves to play a scumbum. He loves to play a criminal. He loves to play just like the absolute worst people you can imagine.
Yeah, and he's great at it. Like
Yeah.
every time he crops up in something, it's like, oh, good. Oh no, he's a scary motherfucker. I am surprised that he hasn't just come up organically in like the 6 years that we've been doing this show.
It is interesting that, yeah, he hasn't appeared in any movie that we've talked about so far, because he is so prolific and he does really pop up in much. I just wanted to show you this poster before I get into his filmography, because, you know, like, the standard Peter Stomare performance is just like, he's like a howling maniac who's just like the grossest dude on the planet. But in Sweden, you know, like, he probably plays a lot more like normal people. I imagine kind of like how in Denmark, you know, obviously Mads Mikkelsen has like a long career of just playing like normal ass fucking dudes,
yeah,
who aren't like super villains or anything.
Yeah,
like
a
that.
nice suburban dad or whatever.
So here's like a Swedish
wacky family comedy.
Here's a Swedish movie called Food and Romance, and he's just playing like a nice chef.
Aww.
He's just playing like a smiling guy.
Aww.
There's no human bones in any of this food, you know? He's just like a nice dude. He's a nice man.
It's a little unsettling seeing him that smile, that toothy grin of his. Oh man.
But yeah, so he's in a handful of movies that got some awards traction. He has an early role in Fanny and Alexander, which is a film from the poet laureate of Sweden, Ingmar Bergman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
So I mean, like, if you want to be in the Swedish film industry, it helps to have that as part of your bona fides. He's
the Kingmaker.
The Kingmaker. He's an institution. They have like university classes on just his films. But yeah, and then he's in other films like Penny Marshall's Awakenings and Louis Malle's Damage. But the big breakthrough role that everyone knows him from, 1996, the Coen brothers' Fargo, where he plays Geir Grimsrud, who taught the world the best way of disposing of your leftover Steve Buscemi's.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't have done it in the snow, but hey, whatever.
Maybe
he never thought people would track him down.
Never shouldn't have done it for just a small amount of money. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? But yeah,
I mean, I just love the energy he brings to that role, where he, you know, doesn't say a hell of a lot and just partnered with Steve Buscemi that never shuts up. So whenever he does open his mouth, like, he means business.
Yeah. And he really, and this was the star-making turn for him, and this is what got him cast as, like, the guy that you don't want to fuck with in any situation. And, and then from that really, like, threw the doors open for him in terms of, like, Hollywood roles, because the next year, as you say, he's in The Lost World Jurassic Park. He gets eaten by the little tiny dinosaurs.
Yep. It's a very novel kill, I'd say.
Yeah.
I like the Spielberg touch where the camera pans and you see, like, the blood trickling through the stream. And it's just like, yeah, you saw it early where he's like fucking with the tiny little lizard, and then
should have done that.
Nope, and then when the thousands of them descend on him, yeah, that's it's, you know, everybody else is just getting eaten by a giant dinosaur, and he gets nibbled to death.
I said earlier, like, Lost World, not a fantastically great movie, maybe one of the worst movies Steven Spielberg ever directed. You compare it to that most recent Jurassic World movie, Dominion, and it's just fucking night and day. Like, I watched, that was on TV the other day, and I was watching it with my friend. We only watched it for about 10 minutes. We had both seen it already. But I was just reminded, like, what an absolutely terrible movie this is. And it's near the end, and it's like all of the main characters from Jurassic Park and Jurassic World are now here. Plus, they're joined by, like, 3 new characters. None of these motherfuckers die. Lost World was a movie that at least recognized some of the good characters have to also get eaten by the dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
That's what steaks are.
Yeah.
Human steaks that T-Rexes eat. No, but it's just like there's absolutely no stakes in that last movie whatsoever.
Jesus, that's such a stupid.
I don't know. You miss 40% of the shots you never take, Jameson.
I'm just imagining some fucking like T-Rex grilling on like a Flintstone style barbecue.
It would be very hard for a T-Rex to grill. Tiny arms.
Yeah.
They have to be a very, very close to the body. Also in 1997, he's in the forgotten film Playing God, where David Duchovny, I think, plays a mob doctor. This is also an early role for Angelina Jolie. 1998, he has a huge year. Not only is it, of course, the year of Hamilton, but he also appears, I don't need to tell you, in an episode of Seinfeld where he plays
Slippery Pete.
Slippery Pete!
Yeah, he has to help George move the Frogger machine. He asks him, like, are we stealing this? No. Well, can I steal a battery for it? Sure, go ahead.
He's also in 2 different Bruce Willis movies. He is in Mercury Rising, but more memorably, he is Russian cosmonaut Lem Andropov in Michael Bay's Armageddon, which I have to imagine... Oh no, I guess I would have seen Lost World first. That feels like my Peter Stomare origin story of like the first time that this is an actor that I recognize now, and I remember that guy because he comes in late. He's like the last character introduced in that movie. He comes in like more than halfway through that movie because he's already in space.
Right.
And he's floating around in 0G. He's like, "Welcome to Mir Space Station." A very sensitive and nuanced portrait of a Russian scientist.
Yeah. But very close to how you just did it.
Very, very much so, yes. But he's a good guy. He helps save... I mean, there's no bad guy in that other than the asteroid, I guess. But, like a rare case where Peter Stomare is part of the team, and he's here to help. But also, he's kind of weird. Yeah. But also in 1998, he's back with the Coen brothers in The Big Lebowski as one of the nihilist rug peer. Does he pee on the rug?
No, he was partnered up with 2 other guys, and originally... That trio was sort of a techno-pop group that failed. And, And, like, that is who The Big Lebowski's girlfriend, she was friends with them from her porn days. He went by Carl Hungus when he shot porns. And she's the one who they collaborate and they arrange the fake kidnapping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who does the actual peeing? Is it Flea or is it, like, the really tall guy?
I think it's the other guy.
It's the other guy. The third one.
Yeah. And he's there to fix on cable.
He is indeed. Yeah, last time he collaborated with the Coens. He only did those 2.
Yeah,
but they were both very memorable for performances. 1999, he's in the Joel Schumacher film 8mm, because, of course, if you're making a scummy movie about snuff films, Peter Stomare...
He's your guy.
He just showed up. He just showed up on set. Like, no one even asked him to be there.
He heard the word snuff film, and he's like, I got something. No, we just need you to act in this.
We just need you to pretend.
Yeah.
This is all pretend, Peter.
What a stretch.
2000, he's in the excellent but very depressing Lars von Trier film Dancer in the Dark. This is the Bjork musical. It's a really interesting film, but it is sad. 2002, another huge year for him. He's in the druggy classic film Spun. You ever see this with like Jason Schwartzman and Mina Suvari and Brittany Murphy, and they're all playing heroin addicts. And it's like the grossest movie that you've ever seen. This was definitely like an early DVD for me when I'm all like, I'm getting into edgy movies now.
Right.
He's part of that ensemble cast. Another, I would say, very memorable role for him. He's back with Spielberg in Minority Report.
Oh, I forgot that he was in Minority
He's
Report.
the eyeball dealer.
Right.
When you crazy Peter's discount eyeballs. When you need eyeballs, I take it out. That's not it. Swedish accents are hard to do.
Yeah, and it's really difficult for us to not just immediately go to the Swedish chef.
Well, because and what's interesting, we'll get into this in Hamilton. Some of these supporting actors, they have accents that are very
stereotypical,
chef adjacent.
Yeah.
I'm the captain of the police station, and this man is under my control. Like that's what that guy sounded like. Peter Stomare doesn't sound like that.
No.
He has a very, very distinct way of talking that kind of...
Honestly, like, as you know, lifetime Canucks fan, whenever I would see the Sedin brothers in interviews,
Yeah.
they sound Irish to me.
Right.
So I can't even put, like, my thumb on the Swedish accent.
But also, it's tough because Stomare is a real master of accents. You know, like, he's played Russians, he's played...
Yeah.
Basically, and if you have a character
of like some vague Eastern European,
he's your man. He can basically do any of them. But yeah, he's in Minority Report. He gives Tom Cruise some new eyeballs. He's in a movie that this is the third time that's come up this year. He's in the John Woo film Wind Talkers with Nicolas Cage, because we've talked about both of them before. So he's also in that. He's in the Jackie Chan film The Tuxedo.
Oh.
Do you remember when he got like a tuxedo that can make him fight?
That make him fight and act like Jackie Chan. Yeah.
He's back with Joel Schumacher in the film Bad Company, which is Anthony Hopkins and Chris Rock.
Okay.
Everyone's favorite duo.
More like bad movie.
Hey, I haven't seen it. No one has seen it.
Okay.
That would be why. Also, in between 2002 and 2003, speaking of Seinfeld, he was in Julia Louis-Dreyfus's first sort of aborted kick at a sitcom after Seinfeld ended, the short-lived Watching Ellie, which only lasted for 12 episodes, but he was a regular on it.
Oh, really?
Yep. That was the first one. That sort of kicked off the whole idea of the Seinfeld curse, which, to be fair, as it relates to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, never really existed, because she had that show that didn't work. But then she had New Adventures of Old Christine, which was very successful and ran for multiple seasons.
Even though I had never seen it, because it just didn't seem my cup of tea.
Somebody watched it, but
then she got Veep.
And then she got Veep, and now she's like one of our favorite actors. So go figure. 2003, he's back with Michael Bay in Bad Boys 2, playing another absolute fucking maniac.
Yeah.
2004, another movie that I weirdly keep bringing up on this show, Birth. We're Nicole
Jesus
Kidman.
Christ!
He's in it.
Give him a rest with that fucking movie.
He's in it. I can't not bring it up if they're in it.
All right.
2005, he voices one of the titular characters in The Batman vs. Dracula.
Okay, so Dracula.
Yes, he is also a Batman. Yes, this is a direct-to-DVD original movie based on the animated series The Batman.
Right, yeah.
That had...
that was right after Batman Begins came out, and after the Bruce Timm, Paul Dini DC cartoons ended.
I remember it being fine. It wasn't... Yeah, it's never been my favorite Batman animated thing, but it's solid. It's like a B-.
I watched a few episodes of that, and the one thing that I didn't care for was how normal and happy Bruce Wayne seemed to be.
Right.
He seemed very well adjusted.
Compare and contrast that with the one that just came out on Amazon, where
he's a dick to Alfred.
Bruce Wayne might be a genuine sociopath. He might be a problem.
Yeah.
That we need to look into in that one. I'm having fun with that. That's a good one.
That's a good show. Yeah, I like
it. Also, 2005, he's in Terry Gilliam's The Brothers Grimm. I'm sure playing another raving lunatic.
Sure.
And then also in 2005, I would say another, in terms of his most memorable roles, definitely for me anyway, he plays one of the more interesting depictions of Lucifer in a movie. With the
Constantine, right?
Constantine, the Keanu Reeves film Constantine, where he only shows up at the very end. He just has a brief back and forth. He's maybe in the movie for 7 minutes. He's not really in it for very long, but he makes an impression.
Oh yeah,
and he's really interesting. You kind of want to see more of his take on it. And the rumor speculating is that Keanu wants to do another Constantine. He wants to do Constantine 2, so maybe they'll bring Peter back for that.
That'd be great.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I remember him.
In between 2005 2006, he's on a season of Prison Break. I don't think he's in the initial one. I think he's maybe in season 2.
Okay.
But he joins the gang. 2006, he's briefly in Nacho Libre.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember? Did you ever see that?
Never saw it, no.
He helps Jack Black get an eagle's egg. He's in one scene.
Okay.
And he's very normal. And doesn't do anything weird.
Yeah.
I'm joking, of course. It's impossible.
Oh.
And then from this point on in the filmography, I kind of really had to space things out because we're really deep in nothing movie territory here. But I'll talk about a couple of minor highlights. He's back with Terry Gilliam briefly. I honestly don't remember him in this, but apparently he plays the president in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Don't remember that at all.
The U.S. president?
It's just the president.
Okay.
is his title. So he could be the president of anything. Could be the president of Sweden, for all we know.
Make more sense.
He's the president of the Imaginarium. 2012, he's in the pretty good junkie action movie Lockout, which is basically Escape from New York, but in space.
Okay.
And
I saw that.
It's so much Escape from New York in space that the producers of Escape from New York sued the producers of that movie and won.
Okay.
They literally had to release different prints of the movie with their names written on as part of the writing credits thing.
Oh.
It's an interesting legal footnote in cinema history. 2013, he's back with Terry Gilliam in The Zero Theorem. He's back with Michael Bay in Pain and Gain. He is in Arnold Schwarzenegger's return to action movies in The Last Stand. 2014, as I previously mentioned, he's in 22 Jump Street. 2015, he's in the excellent video game Until Dawn. Did you ever play that?
Nope.
He's I
have played The Elder Scrolls, which he's in.
Yes, he is. He voices Jorin the Skald King.
Yeah.
I wrote that down because that's a great title. 2017, he appears very briefly in John Wick Chapter 2. His character does not die. So if they continue that franchise, they could bring
Bring him back.
I say bring him back.
Sure,
He's one of
why
the
not?
few John Wick characters that didn't get a bullet to the head, so bring him back. And then recently, 2022, he's in the pretty lousy Netflix film Day Shift, which is Jamie Foxx and Dave Franco going around killing vampires.
Right, okay. Yeah, it makes sense that he'd be in that, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's not a vampire. He plays like a pawn shop operator that falls foul of a vampire. My big thing that annoyed me in that movie is that the entire movie, Dave Franco is like pissing his pants because he's so scared that the vampires are going to get him. He works for the super secret underground vampire hunters guild. So if he's so fucking terrified of vampires, how did he get that job? How did he even find that listing? Why doesn't he work literally anywhere else? Is my major gripe with that
Good question, Kaz. I don't have an answer for you. I haven't seen the movie. Why is he out on the field?
Why is he out on the field? There's like, James. I don't know. James.
Is there like a mind wipe technology like in Men in Black that could let him go about his day?
No, Jameson, this is a realistic movie about vampires living amongst us. There's not mind wipe technology.
No, silly
it's
me.
it's just a regular down-to-earth vampire movie.
Oh, idiot.
Idiot. And then coming up for him, he is in the film adaptation of the Until Dawn video game.
Okay.
So he's just reprising his character from that.
Okay.
He's also going to be playing Geppetto in an upcoming film called Pinocchio, Carved from Darkness. So we're jumping
public domain horror.
on that
adaptation.
trend of public domain horror. And look, in terms of public domain horror, Pinocchio makes a lot more sense than like Winnie the Pooh or whatever. It's
with all the body horror stuff with the donkeys and the big whale.
well, yeah, and also it's an inanimate object that comes to life. It's like that's inherently more scary
I see.
than like Mickey Mouse chopping you up with an axe. But specifically Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. The other one is you
Right.
still got to pay for it. And also, he's done lots of TV and voiceover work. He's played 3 supervillains. For DC, he's been Vertigo on Arrow, and he voiced Mr. Freeze on Justice League Action. And for Marvel, he voiced Whiplash in an episode of Phineas and Ferb. So something for the kids as well.
Okay. Wow.
He's voiced villains in 2 different TMNT series. He voiced Nickelwise, the dancing clown, on a recent episode of Animaniacs.
Okay.
And yeah, he's been in multiple video games, including Elder Scrolls, Destiny, Quake 4, Mercenaries, Command and Conquer. So that's the thing with Command and Conquer is they're doing the live action.
Right.
So I
right.
believe he's in the one where Tim Curry also says space.
Right.
So he's in that one too. Also, he has a music career,
Oh, does he?
both as a solo artist and as a frontman for the band Blonde from Fargo. Which I looked them up on Spotify. The only album you can hear from Blonde from Fargo on Spotify is a 4-track Christmas album.
Aww.
That's kind of delightful.
Aww.
His first solo album is called Dalar Polsa Uk Smafaglar, which Google Translate will have me believe translates to dollar sausage and small birds.
Okay.
It's a beautiful language.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. They got a different word for everything over there.
I'm sure it makes sense. Yeah. But there we go. There's the protracted Peter Stomare
Cool.
filmography. There's a lot more that we could talk about, but who knows?
No, that we stop.
We have to stop now. Okay.
We got to talk about this fucking movie because it's 2 hours of
Yeah, it's one of the longer ones we've talked about in a while.
of absolute madness.
I'm glad that you told me last night that you had like 3 pages of notes, like before like the hour mark or whatever.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm kind of relieved because frankly, I didn't take many notes during this.
Did you at least write down character names? Because I sure as fuck didn't.
I got Wikipedia open, my friend.
Excellent. All right.
It's going to be a lot of us assigning names to people because
right.
they're all very similar.
So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back with Hamilton after this.
We'll be back with Hamilton. Hamilton!
Okay, we're back.
We're back. Hamilton. It was directed by Harold Zvort, who is not a Swedish director. He is Dutch-Norwegian, which I have been told is different.
Sounds like it.
Hamilton is his first movie. He would later go on to direct another classic in the spy action genre. I'm, of course, referring to Agent Cody Banks.
Okay.
Right. His other American films include One Night at McCool's, The Mortal Instruments, City of Bones, Steve Martin's The Pink Panther 2, and the Karate Kid remake with Jackie Chan, which I remember being kind of good.
Oh, okay.
At the very least, Jackie Chan is very good in it.
Sure.
It was better than a remake of The Karate Kid had any right to be. The only thing that's annoying about it is that, of course, they don't do karate.
They'd have to do kung fu because
just call it the Kung Fu Kid. I know I'm bringing up something that movie's like a decade old now.
Yeah.
But that will never not be stupid to me.
And like completely overshadowed by the much more superior Cobra Kai show.
Even though apparently they are blending the franchises because there is a new Karate Kid movie in the works that is going to combine Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan. They're bringing them together.
What? Are we just going to completely forget about Hilary Swank and that the original Karate Kid remake?
We got one more season of that show to go, don't we?
I think this is the last season, but they're doing like a 5-week hiatus. They split the season.
Hilary Swank could show up at any point, my friend.
Damn well better.
She needs the money. That is the most unsuccessful double Academy Award winner currently working. We gotta do a Hilary Swank episode one of these days, but anyway, I also wanted to mention that Harold Zvort also has a Norwegian film series that is called Lange Flatte Bowler, which of course translates to Long Flat Balls. This is a trilogy of films that he has directed. They seemingly all seem to be about
long flat balls.
Well, they seem to be about
men with long flat balls.
It seems to be about like 6 good old Norwegian boys who work at a garage and are very often shirtless. They all seem to have different plots, but they all seem to be around like this group of 6 guys. The first Long Flat Balls is about 6 guys from Norway go on a trip to Germany to cheer on Norway in the World Championship of Football, but it isn't easy to put their normal life aside, not even for football. That's Long Flat Balls 1. Long Flat Balls 2 is seemingly about them going on like a National Guard maneuver. Like they're drafted by the National Guard by a U.S. Admiral played by Don Johnson.
Okay.
And the third Long Flat Balls is apparently a romance. So, like, I don't know what this franchise is about at all, but it's called Long Flat Balls.
And I just putting these 6 characters in different situations.
And they probably drink beer and they take their shirts off.
Okay.
And they love Norway. Because
right.
why not?
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah, but it's not like a Broken Lizard situation where it's just like the same group of guys in different situations. It's the same characters.
It's the same characters.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know. Norway, let us know.
And 6 is a big ensemble too for like
and I'm definitely counting more than 6 shirtless dudes on this thing here. I have no idea. Yeah, Long Flat Balls too. They're in the army now, Jameson. Don't know what to tell you. Yeah, can't find these movies anywhere. I wanted to watch a few minutes of Long Flat Balls, but it's
so you
not...
just typed in Long Flat Balls into Google.
Not great. I had to throw my computer out the window afterwards, basically. Anyway, Hamilton.
Yeah.
This movie is pretty intense.
Yeah, it doesn't fuck around this movie.
No, it really doesn't. Now, okay, let's just get this out of the way first. Hamilton, the series, has been referred to as Sweden's James Bond.
Sure.
Refresh my memory, because I haven't watched the James Bond series in a while. Which Bond was it where he coldly executed like a bunch of people and then hacked up the bodies with a chainsaw?
Jesus.
Was that Diamonds Are Forever?
Yeah,
I don't remember. Oh my God.
That was the one they brought Connery back for.
That was wild.
Yeah.
That's like the first 20 minutes of this movie that happens, and the movie kind of can't recover in a tone perspective from that, kind of. But it asks you to.
You know, like, sort of in the build-up to that where it is just like this espionage thriller, not really a lot of chuckles to be had, but then when I see them come across the people they're intercepting, and Peter Stomare and his friends are equipped with flamethrowers, so I'm like, oh, this is going to be so badass. It's going to be some people in, in fire suits going, or anything like that. No, it won't allow you to get any levity out of this. It really lingers on the direness of the situation and the conflict between his men and the cold attitude of Carl, what the hell is his name?
Hamilton. It's the name
Carl
of the
Hamilton.
That's the one name you're not allowed to forget, James.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, there's multiple scenes in this movie where the quote-unquote good guys execute people who are literally begging for their lives. And it goes away, but then it comes back again near the end of the movie, and I'm all like, Jesus Christ, they're really not fucking around. Like, it really is kind of showing... What's interesting is that, like, this is something that's, like, kind of stuck halfway between a fun escapist James Bond movie and, like, a more serious, like, John le Carré actual spy thriller where it's like things are shades of gray. There's not really like good people or bad people.
Yeah.
It's just governments trying to get one over on the other things. And at the end of the day, there aren't any heroes or whatever, and everyone's morals are compromised.
It really shows you the complex reality of what it must be like to be boots on the ground in these situations where you've apprehended your targets, and what do you do with them? And like 9 times out of 10 in these like action movies, like even in Peacemaker, you know, George Clooney will have apprehended some people, but then the scene kind of follows George Clooney as he's talking to his superiors. We don't see what happens to their captives. You know, like we assume they're either detained or, you know, if someone on George Clooney's side is going to kill them, we don't see it happen. It's left somewhat ambiguous. And certainly our very likable protagonist, played by an A-lister, isn't going to be the one to pull the trigger. This go around, no, you're seeing someone get executed.
And it's not pretty.
No.
And it's not, like, entertaining or anything.
Nope.
I feel like the situation that films like the James Bond series love to create for themselves, to give themselves, like, a free pass, is, like, maybe James Bond has kidnapped an enemy spy, and he's, like, trying to get information out of them, and then, you know, like... It cuts to James Bond, he's on the phone with M, he's like talking about whatever, and the person he's kidnapped is broken free of their bonds.
And he's dropped like a snake into the bathroom
yeah,
or
and
whatever.
he's throwing a knife at Bond, and he catches it and he throws the knife back, and it's
Yeah.
all like, okay, well, he was defending himself.
Yeah.
So it's okay that he killed that guy.
Yeah, this guy went after Bond first, and then after Bond kills him, he drops a one-liner. And so,
Right.
like, it's meant to, like, okay, don't dwell on the darkness.
Someone tried to kill him first, but
Yeah.
very pointedly in Hamilton, it starts off with Hamilton and his men executing unarmed Russian, not civilians, but like, because
they're soldiers, but they're young soldiers.
yeah,
they
young and scared.
Yes,
It's a bad vibe.
So what happens is U.S. gets this intel that 2 Russian missiles are being smuggled out of Russia by unknown terrorist cell, and they're being smuggled through Sweden and Finland, I believe.
So what happens is, like, it's a false flag operation
Yes.
set up by evil Mark Hamill, who we'll get to, but the fake nuclear warhead, which is, I say fake nuclear warhead, it's an actual nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
It's an interesting gamble because, like, this is like the bad team of terrorists, or I say not like bad in terms of like their morality, but I mean they're like actively bad at smuggling a nuclear warhead because they just have it on a big dog sled, and they're just
and they're running around in the Russian tundra in not white camo.
Exactly.
You can spot them a mile away.
They're very noticeable. So that one is going through Sweden. The actual nuclear warhead that Mark Hamill is trying to like steal goes through Finland.
Right.
That's how, and we don't find that out until later.
Yeah.
So the opening of this movie, was this supposed to be Chernobyl? Or was this just like...
No, it's the facility that Mark Hamill runs, which is in that... what do they call it? Like the most contaminated bay in
Yeah, it has
Russia.
all the sunken submarines
Sunken
in it
nuclear
and
subs
everything.
and everything.
Right.
So, yeah. So, yeah.
So it's another heavily radioactive part of Russia that is not Chernobyl.
Yeah, and
it's just a different one.
Of course, it is next to like a school or something because there's a bunch of kids that kick them, you know, their ball into the yard of this nuclear site or whatever.
Maybe these kids could play literally anywhere else.
Sure, yeah.
It feels maybe just a little too close to all the radiation. Yeah. So yeah, we see like this one Russian general come over, and he's like marking nuclear warheads with like an invisible pen that shows up on blacklight. Here's some free advice to anyone working for a government program from a guy who's seen way too many movies. If you're with like any government program and your job is to guard something, be it nuclear warheads or just like anything. If one of your superiors comes up to you and says, "You You guys have been working too hard. Go get some coffee. That's in order. That motherfucker has turned tail. He is up to something.
Yeah.
You go tell someone.
Yeah.
Go turn snitch immediately because that dude is up to something.
The guy even says to one of the other kids, like, "Hey, I got this order. Oh, really? That's not what it says in my manifest."
And it's just, no.
Don't worry about it.
He grabs the clipboard and, like, writes some nonsense on it. It's all like, no, you gotta turn this around, go over here. No, I'm definitely not going to betray my country. No.
Yeah.
So these guys, they sneak the nuclear warhead out of there.
Mm-hmm.
We know something's up because one of them calls our villain, Mike Hawkins.
Mark Hamill, more like it.
Mark Hamill, which will get confusing.
Mark Hamill Hawkins.
Mark Hamill Hawkins Hamilton. It is confusing that we have a Hamill and a Hamilton, so hopefully we won't. But yes, Mike Hawkins, who's an American working in Russia.
What do they describe?
He's like a defense contractor.
Yeah, he's one of the. I had it written down on one of my notes here, but he's one of the. One of the few independent businesses that's not controlled by the state, but it has a contract with the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking about The Peacemaker and we both said how this was like one of those espionage movies that was actually easy to follow and we weren't ever lost?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's out the window now.
Yeah.
That was out the window within the first 10 minutes. I was so lost in this movie.
I don't know who ordered these missiles. I don't know what their demands are. I mean, I don't really care because the real meat on this bone is all the stuff with Peter Stomare and the people that he works with. And, you know, the actual missile plot itself is just, I don't know, the MacGuffin.
Pretty much. But they call the Russians who are smuggling, they call Mark Hamill and they say, hey, is there like a password for like these nuclear missiles? Seems like information you maybe should have given us.
And Mark Hamill's like, yeah, password. It's Washington. There you go.
He stops just short of being all like, yeah, the password is clock, coffee mug, shoe. Like he's looking around the office.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we're all like, okay, what's going on here? Because he's giving them false information. Yeah. And we don't know until later what's actually going on. Yes, what?
Just take this opportunity right now to say Mark Hamill should only be playing villains.
He's great in this.
He's great in this.
He's great in this. He's always great when he plays a villain. He just has absolutely no scruples.
Much fun with it. He's so smarmy.
He knows how to fill a scene. Like there's a scene where like the first scene where Hamilton comes to meet him, he's just like, he's just talking to a subordinate. It's all like, no, I want these in duplicate, I want these in triplicate,
and double space them.
You just know that was a Mark Hamill ad-lib.
Oh,
like
for
that
sure,
wasn't written into the script. Yeah. And he's like driving around in his Jeep later, going like, get out of the way!
No,
he's like yelling at his nuclear scientist. It's all like,
work harder,
make the bomb more nuclear. It's great. He's fantastic. I got no notes for Mark Hamill.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, those Russian troops are now smuggling the missile via dog sled that they're pulling themselves over the Arctic tundra there.
The old-fashioned way.
We cut to Stockholm where a very sharply dressed Peter Stomare is gifting a sword to some newlyweds. I am just not aware of this custom in weddings, but hey, all the power to you.
Yeah, this was also knowing going into this that this was like a long-running book series. I can't confirm this because obviously I haven't read the synopsis of all of these books, but I had to imagine it's all like, okay, these must be reoccurring characters.
Sure.
So they're dropping us in the middle of something with the understanding that, like, as a Swedish audience member, we would probably understand who all of the supporting cast of the Hamilton series is.
Sure.
But for us, it took like a little bit longer. But yeah, he's at the wedding of like his partner, Aki, I believe is this character's name.
Aki, yeah.
And he's getting married, and the honeymoon doesn't even get started because like top brass shows up at this wedding, and they scurry them away to a secret room to start talking about the nuclear problem.
Yeah, these are like a special ops crew of the Swedish Secret Service, whatever the hell that's called. The Swede IA or whatever.
The Swede IA.
Yeah, but they meet up with.
You were giving me shit for my human steaks joke earlier. I feel like that's pretty equal.
Pretty egregious.
That's pretty equal.
Yeah. So they meet up with a representative of the U.S. CIA named Texas Slim.
Texas Slim!
I wish he had a Texan accent and a big cowboy hat.
I wish he was more of a character.
Yes.
Because frankly, when I found out that there was a character in this named Texas, also, it's like, again, I don't know if this is a character who shows up in the book. This really feels like a Swedish author being all like, what's the most American name I can think of to give this character?
They really should have wrote him as like, really obnoxious and fat and always eating McDonald's and everything.
Yeah, they need to. Speaking of James Bond, they need to make him a Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
Oh God.
No, but he's just like a regular guy, but he just happens to have the name of Texas Slim. And I just wish he did more and contributed more to the story so we could say Texas Slim more often.
I know.
But
no,
he's not really in the movie that much.
He's just there to be like the superfluous American, Felix Leiter.
I do want to bring up something since it's like kind of the only time we'll get to talk about Texas Slim. I wanted to bring up this interesting thing because I went through the filmography of this. Obviously, this is an actor named Terry Carter. The interesting thing that I found out on this guy's filmography is that he had a big gap appearing in anything from 1998 to 2012. He wasn't in anything. Like Hamilton was kind of the last thing that he was in. Oh, I guess he was President Teague in the original Battlestar Galactica. Okay, that means something to somebody. But from 1998 to 2012, he's not in anything. 2012, he comes back for what ended up being his final on-screen credit. That credit was a different adaptation of Hamilton, where he is playing a different character. He's not playing Texas Slim.
Interesting.
Yes. So yeah, he's in Hamilton, and then in 2012 he's in Hamilton in the Interest of the Nation.
So they go to the big war room where they're looking over the satellite images of where they're going to be tracking these smugglers. One of the people of this group, he says, "Can't we stop them at the Swedish border?" No response.
Can't we stop them at the Swedish border? How do the Americans want it?
We supply the equipment and the logistical support.
The movie would be over. Stop asking reasonable questions, please. Well, also before that happens, the covert meeting is interrupted by the introduction of Tessie.
Oh, yeah.
Who is Hamilton's
American wife?
No, she's Swedish, but like
her
wife/girlfriend? I was very confused as to what their actual relationship was. Because it's quite vague.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like maybe if you read the books, you would understand what it is. Because there's like the woman that he lives with.
Yes.
Basically, is what you can.
I read girlfriend or partner.
Well, I read it's very confusing because I read girlfriend as well too. But then like later on in the movie, spoiler alert, the woman gets kidnapped. Later on in the movie, there's all like, we have your wife, Mrs. Hamilton, and then she has a moment where she defiantly is all like, I'm not Mrs. Hamilton. It's all like, well, but you could still be his wife though. That does. So I don't know. I don't know what their relationship is.
Okay.
But this is another famous Swedish actress. This is Lena Olin, Academy Award nominee. 2 years after this, her and Stomare would play husband and wife again in the film Chocolat.
Okay.
Which was directed by her husband, Lasse Hallström, who's another very famous Swedish filmmaker. Just a footnote. I just wanted to throw that in there. She's the only other name actor in this, but Lena Olin, not really someone you would know outside of Sweden or if you, like, followed the Academy Awards. There we go. I've mentioned it. We can move on.
Cool. All right, so the troops zero in on the smugglers, and they parachute down to intercept them. And that's when they surround the troops with their flamethrowers and they burn all their supplies. And I thought, like, oh, is their plan just to, like, strand them here in the middle of the tundra where they are likely to freeze to death? Oh, that's pretty cruel. Cruelty abounds with these guys. So,
technically they do the lesser of the cruel acts.
Yeah.
It would be crueler to leave them in the elements and let them freeze to death, but at the very least they give them a swift death. Well, some of them don't die the first time around.
Yeah.
Some of them get a couple of gunshot wounds and then are still.
Yeah.
And then the chainsaw comes out.
Yeah.
And Hamilton himself puts the fucking
He does the deed himself. He pulls out the chainsaw, and there's like a splatter effect immediately, and he's surrounded by all the blood and the viscera. Like
there's like a pile of limbs behind him and everything, and then they set the limbs on fire, and we find out later on that like one of the guys he started chainsawing up was still alive while he was doing it.
So he had to shoot him in the head, and he orders his troops to do that, and they are very hesitant to go through.
Understandably so.
These are unarmed men pleading for their lives, and they're young men. And they read the situation as wrong, and those are your orders. I order you to kill this guy.
The government told you to do it, and you gotta live. That's what we work for. We work for the government. We gotta do this. I just love the fact that someone skydived out of an airplane with a chainsaw. Yeah. Like that was just in their bag.
Real Fortnite situation.
Like it's almost comical. Like if it wasn't like really disturbing.
In another movie, that would have been cheesy and hilarious.
It would have. It's almost like a scene out of Hot Shots or something like that. You know, it's like if there wasn't like piles of blood and viscera, it would be funny. The sight of our hero just chainsawing up a bunch of bodies, seemingly all by his lonesome. But no, it's played quite seriously.
So in a scene that I didn't see, or maybe they didn't film, one of the Russian troops makes a break for it. And so he orders Anki to chase him down.
No, they filmed that.
They did? Okay.
I think it happens very early on. It happened. So, one of them gets away before the chainsawing happens.
Yeah.
So Aki's not even present for the chainsawing.
Sure, yeah.
So Aki's off on his own little mission.
He's hunting down the one that got away. He catches him, and the Russian begs for his life, and Aki just can't go through with
Aki actually has humanity.
He has compassion. So he lets the Russian live, and he tells Peter Stomare that he died. He fell through like an icy lake or whatever.
He died. I couldn't bring the body back because I just killed him so hard.
Yeah.
So he's dead.
So here's the really fucked thing that there's so many notes for this. They're like, each of them had like 50 grand on them. He tells them to burn it because he believes in nothing. He's a nihilist at heart. But he goes back to the sweet IA, and he's talking to
That's what it's called!
He's talking to his superior, and he starts questioning everything. He's like, these guys were unarmed. They didn't fit the profile as terrorists or smugglers. They just seemed like kids, and they didn't know anything about where they were going. So even though you went through with these orders to execute them, like no loose ends or anything like that, you still recognize that there was something off about this situation. But you went through it anyway because
you're Carl Hamilton.
You're Carl Hamilton,
and that's what and if you read the books, you would know that that's what his like morals and whole deal is.
What a hero!
I guess.
Jesus, like what a monster this guy.
But it builds up to the thing where it's like if you're a spy or like a counter terrorist or what have you, you're gonna be in positions where like your morals are gonna be questioned. You're gonna have to do things that you're not terribly happy with, and I totally get that. I totally understand that. They just really up to the level of the gruesomeness. Like it could have been so much simpler. It could have been like Hamilton killing one person that he didn't want to kill. But no, he massacred like 9 dudes and chopped them up into little pieces. I feel like I can't get away from that particular point. He chopped them up good.
With a cold intensity that even freaks out the men in his charge who recognize that, this is a fucked up thing you're asking us to do. Well, do it. That's an order.
And also, and the other thing that we didn't mention.
This is Peter.
It's Peter Stomare. Of course, he has like the cold eyes of a killer.
I was expecting, okay, well, this will be a heroic turn for the guy. I'm sick of seeing him as the bad guy. No, there's really no difference.
Too bad.
Even when he's gone straight, he's.
You want a heroic Peter Stomare? Watch Armageddon again. That's your only option.
Big fucking anti-hero here. So he goes to his mansion that he lives in.
He lives in a dilapidated castle. This is the other funny thing is like, do you remember, speaking of James Bond again, like you remember how in Skyfall James Bond has like the
aristocratic
old family estate that he turns into like a booby trap for like the villain or whatever. Yeah, Hamilton just lives there. Yeah. Hamilton just lives in that
moved in after
he's just
after
like
Skyfall.
That one thing where he's just all like waste of a perfectly good castle. Yeah. But like you see the inside of it and it's all falling apart. It's all like
it's like a big reno project that he and his girlfriend are doing.
It's a reno project that he will never be done with.
Yeah.
Because he's always going off on missions.
Maybe they're trying to flip the home.
And poor Lena Olin is always alone in not always alone. She has plenty of wine nights with her girlfriend.
Yeah, and they have plenty of board game nights where they play Risk, and Peter Stomare can't play Risk.
Yeah,
Hamilton, he loses his shit when he's
Hamilton is bad at board game night. Yeah. Okay.
But also she's never alone because there is a servant that works there, and you said earlier that. Occasionally there are some actors that dip into the Swedish accent.
Yeah.
This guy definitely had the most pronounced one where he says, how do, people roll up to the gate and they have to have their faces scanned to get in.
We're shown here in this scene that Hamilton is quite paranoid, which makes sense given his line of work. But
must make a lot of enemies.
For 1998, he has this high-tech facial recognition software because Aki and his new wife pull up to the front gate, and Aki has to hold perfectly still for 5 minutes while this thing scans him.
Hi, Branston. How did we get in?
It's not a problem as long as you keep your head.
And then someone's like,
that'll come back later.
What the hell does that mean?
What does that mean? I forgot all about that, but yeah, that'll come back later. Okay, so now I feel like the board game scene, I think we need to talk about an element that up until now we actually haven't brought up yet, is that this entire movie is dubbed. This entire movie is rough ADR, and the actors who we know can speak English, like Peter Stomare and Lena
Texas
Olin.
Slim and Mark Hamill, obviously.
They're doing their ADR.
Sure.
Hamilton speaks with the recognizable voice of Peter Stomare. I know it's him.
Yeah.
Generally, and I mean, I haven't done this a ton, but generally, when you come in and you do additional dialogue recording, you are watching the movie so that your vocal performance matches the physical performance that you gave.
As best you can.
Not so much in this, because this is the moment where I start noticing that Peter Stomare is giving a lot more energy in his vocal performance than he gave on the day. Because he's talking about I'm no good at playing Risk. You always cheat. You're always getting up on me or whatever. But he's playing it all I'm no good at Risk. You're always cheating. He's playing it very he's playing his cards very close to his chest. But his voice performance, he's giving way more energy than he's giving in the scene.
And I want to say, most of the secondary and tertiary characters, I don't think these were actors that knew English.
No, and they're certainly not speaking English at all. And again, to compare it to the last nuclear warhead movie we covered, The Peacemaker, that was a movie that completely understood if characters are from a foreign country where they don't speak English, don't have them speak English. Have them speak their actual language.
We can read the subtitles.
It's just more of undervaluing your audience.
Yeah.
Where it's all oh no, if we're showing this to an American market, the entire movie has to be dubbed.
We gotta hold their hand and
because Americans don't read.
But this was some of the, outside of a bad 70s kung fu movie, this is some of the worst dubbing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In clearly a high budget movie.
And it just should have been a cacophony of different languages. The Swedes should have talked Swedish, the Finns should have talked Finnish, Russians should have talked Russian, and then you have an American villain. So at least a quarter of this movie will be in English.
Sure.
But for the rest of it, it's completely unnecessary, and it completely undermines certain scenes. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm talking about this. There's a scene where Mark Hamill is taunting Hamilton over the phone.
Yeah.
And he puts his kidnapped wife/girlfriend on the phone, and she says something to him, and then Mark Hamill grabs the phone back and goes he's mocking the Swedish accent, but she's speaking English. So it's it completely undermines.
Yeah, there's no need for him to have done that.
There's no need for that because she was just speaking English. Yeah, and it's I don't know. I kept noticing it. I couldn't not notice it every time it happened.
You absolutely couldn't get away from it. All right, so we cut to a scene that's right out of Fargo, where on the side of a snowy, deserted road, there is a dead trucker who is found by a plainclothes police officer.
This is Finland, right?
I believe it's Finland.
This is Finland where we are.
Yeah,
now.
where we meet Finnish Columbo Jansson.
Oh, I'm so glad you wrote down this character's name.
Yeah,
because
the only one I picked up. I love this guy. He was so
This guy's fun.
He was so disheveled, but like brilliant. So yeah, Finnish Columbo. That's who this guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hamilton also shows up as a supporting character in other books, so I wonder if like Finnish Columbo gets his own The Adventures of Jansson.
Yeah, they're
like,
finally bringing them together. It's the crossover project
Yeah.
we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he finds this body, and it was the trucker that was hauling the other warhead, but even though there's like some readings of radiation in the back of the cargo truck, the missile's gone.
Yeah, the missile's gone, and they do the autopsy on the trucker, and they found out that he was poisoned with a very specific poison called curare.
Curare.
Which is well known to be used within the KGB. What are we doing here? And this is another moment where I'm like, this movie should have just been in Swedish, because Hamilton goes back to the Swede IA and I believe
fires up his Windows 98 computer.
Yes. Did you notice like when like the mission was over and they burned all the bodies, like Microsoft Word popped up and it's like no loose ends.
A big blue screen of death, literal death. Like
there's just someone in the corner just like typing that.
away.
Good job.
You got that, yeah. Goodbye.
But his boss comes in and is all like, look at this email, and it just shows like this email, but it's just in Swedish.
Yeah.
So we don't know what it says. I literally paused the movie and ran the email through Google Translate to find out what it is, and it's just basically like, who uses curare on this date? We found a murdered truck driver. Since it was found after the autopsy, we're trying to find someone who can help.
Yep.
I only saw like a quarter of the email, so I missed like half of the words. But yeah, that's the general thing.
Yeah.
But it's just another example of all like, look at this email. Well, that's something. We should go over here. I don't know what that says. This movie.
You want to help me along here?
I know.
ADR crew.
This movie flirts in between holding my hand and then just like
leaving you for you're on your own,
leaving me in the tundra to like find my way back.
So Peter Stomare goes to meet Finnish Columbo. They say something like,
"It's pretty unusual for people to be killed with curare."
which Peter Stomare responds with,
"It's not that unusual either."
"What?"
Okay.
I mean,
Thanks, Hamilton.
Is he making the point that like, no, curare is actually lethal if you take it, so it makes sense that someone would die? Like, is that this movie's attempt at humor? Is that like the Swedish humor that we should be expecting?
This movie has a couple genuine attempts at humor, and
it's very unsettling.
Very unsettling, largely because we still have the massacred pile of limbs in the back of our head.
But hey, that comes back because Finnish Columbo says, "Oh, so we actually apprehended a suspect, Russian passport and everything. Let's bring him in here." And wouldn't you know it, it's the guy that Aki let go. And he says like, "Oh my God, that's the guy who set me free. Like he can vouch for my whereabouts and everything." And that's when I was like, oh shit, Aki is fucking dead.
And from this moment on, Aki is dead to Hamilton.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, for most of this movie, it is like two best friends being like petulantly mean to each other.
Yeah.
Because Hamilton's just all like, fuck you. Kick him off the force.
Yeah.
And it's all like, isn't that like your best
Isn't
buddy?
that like your number two?
Didn't you just have board game night with him?
Didn't you just give him a sword
You
as a wedding
just
gift?
gave him a wedding sword.
That bond's for life, man. And I mean, I think that's a brilliant twist that they it's early in the movie, but I think that's a brilliant direction to have with this character, where he clearly disobeyed an order, let somebody go, and it let like these dominoes fall, and now the crazy man is aware that this person betrayed an order and just completely fucked everything up. That's a great twist, and if this were like an hour-long prestige drama, excellent cliffhanger.
I should have mentioned earlier, there actually was a longer version of this movie.
There's no fucking way I'm watching that.
It actually was edited down from a 3-hour version that aired on Swedish television. So this movie was released in hour-long segments. And you can kind of tell, because it feels like there's shit cut out of this. It feels like there are like character introductions that are cut out of this. And in point of fact, from this point on until kind of the end, Aki's not really a character anymore, despite the fact he's like Hamilton's partner. There's like this whole middle section where Hamilton goes to Russia and he gets like a different partner. Until the end, where he goes to North Africa, and then all of a sudden Aki's back.
Well, because Aki disobeyed an order, he's in the shit now. So the superiors, I don't know...
they bump him down to a desk job.
Pretty much, yeah.
He's still around.
Yeah, exactly. So that's his punishment for disobeying, for allowing someone to live, a defenseless man to live. You are punished.
Hamilton is so mad. He's so pissed off.
Yeah.
And he goes home to... What's his... I keep calling her Lena Olin.
It's like Tanny or...
it's like Tenny.
Tennis? Tessie.
Tessie! That's an actual name. Yeah. He goes back to Tessie, and Tessie says what the audience is thinking. It's all like, isn't that your best friend? He's all like, no, fuck that guy. Yeah. He didn't shoot an unarmed man in cold blood, so he's dead to me.
That's not how we do things in the Stormami household. So there's some foul play afoot in Russia. We got to go meet up with an apparent contact that Hamilton has.
He has a Russian friend, much like George Clooney had a... He wasn't Russian. He was like Croatian or something. I don't know. He has a friend within the KGB. I don't think he's... I didn't write down this character's name.
I think he's a high-ranking military officer, but I don't think he's with the KGB.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, the people that are in the machinations with Mark Hamill, they are the KGB generals.
Right, so it's again,
So,
if you're not up on how like the Russian military works, this is a little hard to follow, and we're not making it any easier.
Yeah, he says that and there's the introductory scene. He says we got extraordinary authority from the president himself, which means even if the KGB don't like it, they have to have, as the character says in the movie.
Yes.
The president himself provided us with extraordinary authority.
Which means?
Whether the KGB likes it or not, they have to have it.
So we got this middle section where Hamilton and Finnish Columbo go to meet his friend Boris.
Sure.
Let's just call him Boris. And there's a scene where the three of them are in the car, and Boris is all like, how's your new girlfriend? And he's all like, big movies? Yeah! And it's like this weird... and then Finnish Columbo is like in the middle, and he's like, it's like that awkward moment where like two people know each other really well, and you're just like...
Third wheel.
He's just third wheeling along.
Yeah.
So he takes them to like a room that the KGB has given for
their office.
For their investigation. It's literally just like a room with no chairs or desks or
and like a phone on the ground. That's communism for you.
And they start looking through like a bunch of photos, and they recognize one Russian KGB officer named
Barabanov.
Yeah. Who is identified as involved in the nuke heist.
Sure.
In some way. You can tell that this is definitely the part of the movie that I was falling asleep at. But they question this guy. He's all like, I'm KGB, I'm above the law, you can't touch me, motherfucker.
I like how they do apprehend him. Hamilton's friend Boris says, I got a plan. We're going to provoke a reaction from the KGB. So they kidnap Barbosa. And they have
Barbosa's treasure.
We're going to just like leave him in like this holding room with Finnish Columbo, and we're going to wait outside just to see what happens. And I'm like, oh my fucking god, did they set up Finnish Columbo to get killed by like the other guards in the room? Is that
like killed? But like, yeah, they're definitely hanging Finnish Columbo out to dry.
But then they see an actual KGB general come by, who's trying to play nice, but he's like lying.
He's just like, hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, you want me to take him off your hands?
What's happening? You guys had some coffee? You guys look like you need some coffee.
He had some real like George Costanza when he's trying to weasel out of a situation. Yeah, he had that kind of energy.
But yeah, they grill Barbados and then they also go to see Mark Hamill.
They do.
And they basically flat out tell him to his face. It's all like, we know you're the villain.
We know you're involved, yeah.
We know you are. And he's just all like, I don't think you can prove it. I think I'm probably fine.
Mm-hmm. I just love that part where Stomare and Hamill are like staring each other down. And it's just these two, very famous actors who are well known for playing creepy guys trying to out creep each other, like out intimidate each other. That's a great scene.
You know Kolya? Kolya, Moldavi.
Sure. He's an employee. Clever young man. He's been to Disneyland. You know?
Where is he now?
Well, I think he's on a business trip. As a matter of fact, I think he's in Sweden.
He's not in Sweden, you know that.
Where is he then? He was executed 9 days ago on the Russian tundra, together with 11 other of your employees. How do you know that? I was there.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that gets nowhere. They go to see a third guy, but then he's already dead, and they get there just as he's like falling over dead, so someone just poisoned him.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
And then Hamilton has to run after him, and then he like runs into a room with nuclear radiation.
Yep.
So he's just all like, I got exposed to nuclear radiation. I need some iodine. It's
and I'm like, oh, is there going to be a ticking clock element to this? He's going to be slowly dying of radiation. No.
he's fine.
He's fine.
He just walks it off. He shrugs it off. It's just like, I'll take a pill. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I was exposed to radiation, but I'm probably fine.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about this movie. There's a lot of ground to cover for it. They seem to they really dot their I's and cross their T's as far as like following the steps of how you go about investigating these stolen nukes and what are the next logical steps and what are the proper chains of command you have to go through for these situations. It just really drags the movie down in certain places. Like I'm already kind of riding high based on the tension that is there from Hamilton killing those defenseless, unarmed men. So, like, it's won me over that way. Yeah. It's won me over with following the intrigue in Russia and sort of the machinations of Mark Hamill. But
this middle section really drags.
It really does. Yeah.
But an hour in, we get our first actual action sequence.
Yep.
The chainsaw doesn't count. Mm-hmm. This is like an actual action sequence.
Yep.
Because they sneak into General
Barbados' apartment.
Baran.
Babar's apartment.
They sneak into his apartment and they get like the secret information off of the computer or whatever.
So he's got to deploy his trusty hacking disk, which is labeled Professional Password Cracker version 3.39.
That's the best version too. So like only the finest tech that 1998 has to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professional Password Cracker. Yeah, that was hacking back in the 90s, folks. You had to install the software yourself.
He should have just tried password.
Yeah,
he should have just checked it out, or whatever the Russian word for password is.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, Eins, zwei, drei. That's German. I'm an idiot. Anyway, so all of these Russian soldiers show up and they corner Hamilton, and Hamilton has to shoot his way out. And it's at this point in time I'm asking myself the question: are these even bad guys? Because we're just so conditioned to the fact that, like, Russians in action movies or, like, bad guys will kill all the Russians or whatever. We don't actually believe that, but Russia will never know because we are now banned in Russia. Well,
thanks,
all of it.
YouTube copyright strike.
Thanks, YouTube. Apparently all of YouTube is down in Russia, but it started with us.
Yeah.
But like he's like a foreign dignitary in in a foreign country doing something he shouldn't be doing. So these are just like Russian police who are like called to a building because someone is supposed to be. They can't all be working with Mark Hamill, right?
Are they not just the KGB agents looking out for their own?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, but they're not?
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean they should get a bullet to the fucking head.
All right.
Because that's what Hamilton does. He just starts fucking, like shooting to kill.
Yeah.
And he takes down, like, a bunch of these guys single-handedly. And it's cool, but at the same time, I wanted, like, isn't this, like, an act of war between Sweden and Russia?
It most certainly is. Like, at least espionage charges, but, this is Russia and this is the KGB. They have a talent of making people disappear. It's suicide by falling out of a window.
And the first kind of cool thing that happens in this is like he pulls a John McClane kind of, and he escapes through like a garbage chute. And there's like a kind of a fun moment where the guards realize he's in the garbage chute, so they set a dumpster on fire. I could think of like three easier ways to get him out of the garbage chute.
Point and shoot.
Yeah, then burning the building down that you're all in. But he escapes from this. And this is another moment of levity that honestly felt like it could have walked right out of like a Leslie Nielsen movie.
Oh, where he steals the officer's uniform of just like this off-duty guy drinking his vodka, watching his stories.
Just like this old retired Russian general or whatever who's just mowing down a bottle of Stoli, and Hamilton like bursts into his room. He's got like blood and soot all over his face because he
I need your jacket and your hat.
he doesn't even do. It's just hanging on the wall. He's all like, "This is a nice jacket." He just puts it on, goes over, takes a little sip out of his vodka, and he escapes no problem
Right out the front door,
he's just holding the hat over his face. No one asks him any questions. No one asks him to see his papers, please. And like, this could be funny. One, I would say, to make this joke work, you gotta make this guy way drunker than he is. Because he just kind of seems like checked out. He's just kind of all like, "Oh, a random person has walked into my apartment. Oh, he's taken my coat and hat.
Oh, and he's stealing my vodka."
How hilarious! But yeah, this guy needs to be like blackout drunk, I think, for this joke to actually work.
Sure.
But that's how Hamilton gets out of the building. He literally puts on a
Incognito,
coat and hat,
yeah.
even though he's covered in blood. And he gets into Boris's car, and they drive away. And he has the secret information. Now Barbados doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Right. And they go and they apprehend Mark Hamill. He says, "What took you so long?" Which I thought was hilarious.
He's grown a mustache and he's twirling it between his fingers.
Yeah. And yeah, they take him back to Sweden, I believe, to interrogate him.
He calls Hamilton a Nazi butcher. I didn't really understand what that was about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to read another book in the series.
We'll have to read literally any book in the Hamilton series.
Yeah,
yes.
but also he, as an American, is calling him like a Nazi butcher, and he's saying that like sort of like with a derisive tone in his mouth, like, "Motherfucker, like, your country was an allied power."
Also, you are literally a terrorist.
Yes.
That is your job description, Mark Hamill.
So they apprehend Mark Hamill, and they're gonna, like, he spills the beans, but I guess it doesn't really matter because there are some troops that go in and rescue Mark Hamill from his captors.
Almost immediately, Mark Hamill escapes.
Yeah.
On a helicopter. And that scene is over.
Yeah, and he's off to Libya, apparently.
There's like a brief moment where he goes back to his
to Wayne Manor. Where,
his castle on the hill.
Yeah.
Miss Havisham is in the attic.
Yeah, and he and Tessie are watching Swedish Jeopardy.
Yeah. But he finally he's finally able to talk to his lady love about the trauma.
The rift that happened.
The rift that happened between him and yes, because Aki calls her on the phone.
Yeah.
He's all like, "I don't want to talk to that motherfucker," and she's all like, "What is going on?" And he finally. I don't know how long they've been in this relationship. I don't know how long this has been going on.
I mean, she must know that he's a spy.
Well, she knows that he's a spy, but like he's never. I guess until this moment, he's never gone into any sort of detail about what he has to do, what his job entails.
Yeah.
And he tells her all the grisly. Like he literally has the line is all like, "We cut them up into smaller pieces because they burn easier when the That's a line from this movie.
And he says, "Yes, it's barbaric, but I was just following orders." And she straight up says, "Well, if someone that you can't say no to ordered you to kill me, would you do it?" And no answer.
He doesn't say no.
Lady, get the fuck out of there.
And she reacts very realistically. Like, he tells her the story, and then she has, like, this moment. He's all like, "Don't fucking touch me. I need, like, a stiff drink after all of that." And she wisely looks at him and says, like, how can you do that? How can you be that person? And again, he doesn't.
It's part of the job.
It's part of the job,
You knew that when you married me.
If you did. Still unclear on that.
Yeah, I told you before, babe, if it ever comes down between you and the job, I take the job 100% of the time.
So now he goes to Libya with Aki. They're forced back together. This is, I suppose, Act 3. This is where the part 3 of the miniseries would have started, I imagine.
Well,
this is the most interesting part of this movie.
Oh,
I kind of wish that I got some big laser mission flashbacks.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of wanted the entire movie to be set in Libya. I thought it was really interesting.
Right up to the point where, like, the main villain gets run over by a Jeep.
Yes.
At one point.
100%. Yes.
And actually survives an explosion.
Yes.
Yes, big laser mission vibes for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the way that this Hamilton movie is edited together from a longer miniseries. this is maybe only like 25 minutes of the movie.
This movie is in a real fucking hurry to finish.
Yeah, and I'm just all like, this is we're just finally getting interesting. We're finally getting good. They're riding camels.
Yeah.
They have like
they're made up with the Libyan intelligence, and they're partnered up with them.
Like over an hour and a half into this movie, we're introduced to yet another character. This female Libyan spy or whatever who is like leading her own task force of like men on camels with like machine guns and everything. I'm all like, this woman seems interesting. What's her whole deal? It's like the only other woman in this movie who isn't a wife or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Too bad. Too bad. She gets maybe like 10 lines.
Yeah, and they're some of the worst dubbing, unfortunately.
There's some of the worst dubbing, and this is it's back again because we find out that like one of her men is like being bugged by the CIA.
Yeah, so this is the U.S.'s mission, but Stomare convinces them that like the U.S. just is looking for an excuse to bomb the hell out of Libya. I want to go in there and actually retrieve the nuke, under the warning that if they attack the nuke the wrong way, it'll actually set off the bomb. So he says like, hey, sweet IA, just let me tag along on this. Okay, but you got to report everything back to us so we can report back to the U.S.
And there is a scene where Hamilton goes to meet with Texas Slim, and Texas Slim is all like, them's the breaks, Hamilton. And Hamilton kind of like bangs his... He pouts and he like bangs his fist on a desk. And
it's like, fine, jeez.
And then, the Texas Slim is all like, okay, you know what? Maybe I will play ball. Maybe I'll be your man on the inside, Hamilton.
Yeah.
I'm Texas Slim, and I'm going to be in this movie regardless of whether or not anything interesting is being written for me to do or say.
Yeah. But yes, both parties tell Hamilton that he has to check in with their coordinates every so often. But they also conveniently bug one of the...
Because the idea that the best that I could parse out is that Hamilton and his team are on a mission to stop Mike Hawkins and take the nuclear part out of the nuclear warhead. What's the word?
The warhead, or the payload.
Yeah, but what... I need to get to the bottom of this, unfortunately. What's the word where you make something not lethal? Deactivate! Thank you, I got there eventually. Okay. Fuck my fucking brain. Podcasting's hard sometimes.
It is.
So they have to go... Their mission is to deactivate the nuclear warhead, but the Americans have their own mission, which is to just bomb the shit out of Libya. And it's the one moment where Hamilton appears to have any humanity, where it's just all like...
No, this is wrong.
That would be bad. Bombing a foreign country. I'm against that. Interestingly enough, Carl Hamilton, am against that.
He's very anti-American imperialism. That's for damn sure.
Very much so. But so he kind of has two missions: stop Mike Hawkins and also
save Libya from the Americans.
Save Libya. Get there before the Americans get there with their thing. And my question was, you know, like we see like the fighter pilots in their fighter jets or whatever, and they have their bombs and they're triangulating on Mark Hamill's. Man, I could think of triangulating, but I couldn't think of
deactivate.
Yeah, man, I don't know what's going on here.
Don't worry about it.
Wouldn't a missile set the nuclear warhead off?
Yes, that's why he wants to go in there and deactivate it.
But why do the Americans want a nuclear explosion to happen? I would feel all parties
for that precious oil, Kaz.
Oh, that precious oil. But it's radioactive oil now, so they can't fucking use it.
Well,
the only person who should want the nuke to go off is Mike Hawkins, but the Americans seem to think a missile is no big deal. They can shoot a missile at a nuclear warhead, and Hiroshima Part 2 won't happen.
I mean... Look, the plot itself is very difficult for us to follow.
Clearly,
in this movie, we're even though it's going through all the right proper channels and everything, I couldn't pay fucking attention. Maybe there's like some offhanded mention or reasoning why the Americans are going about doing this the way that they're doing it. I completely missed it.
I believe the reason was, I have it written here, yeehaw. Here we go.
Yeah, they find the person that had the bug for the U.S. So yeah, the Libyan.
Who does have a name. Her name is...
Mona.
Yeah. It is spelled Muna.
Okay.
But yes, apparently it's Mona.
Yeah, pronounced... Yeah. So Mona goes and, in a very Carl Hamilton way, executes the person in her charge.
The movie takes the time for the guy to get down on his knees, literally start begging for his life, and then like holds on Mona... holding the gun at his head for a long time, and then she just coldly executes him anyway. And I'm just like, what is the purpose of this? What is this movie trying to tell us?
I had this thought where kind of gives like this look to Peter Stomare, sort of like that's how I roll. That's how we're like, you and I get each other.
Right.
We're not so different in this line of work that we must do.
Very slowly from the bottom of the screen, just like a big thumbs up from Peter Stomare. It's all like, good.
Yeah.
This was the right call.
Yeah, I like you. I
have learned nothing.
He nudges Aki and says, like, you see?
You see? That's what you should have done. That's what you should have done. And Aki's just all like, my God, this again.
I'm with psychopaths.
Oh, my God.
Fucking psychopaths.
I thought we were over this.
So Mark Hamill gets wind that Peter Stomare is in town, so he has an ace up his sleeve, and he sends...
It's the best ace of all time. I don't know what I was expecting when I sat down to watch this movie. A fucking camel phone was not one of the fucking things I thought I was gonna see in this.
A landline camel phone.
we see like one of the guys like, there's a rider coming in. The guy's riding on camel, and yeah, he's like, he has like a big long cord like following him or whatever, and he's just all like,
it's the landline now.
It's the landline, and he's just on
Camelgram.
Camelgram. Yes, he brings a camelgram to Peter Stomare. And yeah, it's Mike Hawkins on the other end. He's like, Hamilton!
I got your wife!
You son of a bitch. Because yes, interspersed with this, we cut back
to girls' night at
to Hamilton Manor, where the girls are drinking wine and
talking about boys.
Talking about boys, but also talking about other things. So this movie does just barely pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Only briefly. But yeah, and it's like there's like...
Well, actually, I don't think so, because isn't her friend falling asleep, so it's not even a conversation.
It's not even You're actually right. She's having a one-way conversation with someone who's actually not listening to her. So I take it back. That actually doesn't pass the Bechdel
But they're
test.
actually having a nice night together when all of a sudden the loudest alarm goes off. Like, that would freak the hell out of me. And someone's at the gate. Oh, it's okay. It's just our butler. But twist. Remember what we said about, it will work so long as you keep your head? Well, Butler lost his head. He got decapitated and he's held up. We don't see him get decapitated.
General Barbaros is back, and yeah, we don't see he got decapitated off screen, and he's holding the butler's head up so he can bypass the security system.
That I guess he knows is there.
He knows everything. He's KGB. He's got all of the intel.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and he takes the two women hostage. And yeah, briefly. But Mark Hamill at this point in time, he's all like, "I'm patching you through. We have your girlfriend / wife. On the other line. Now I'm making fun of the Swedish language. Doesn't make sense. So it's all like, you gotta give yourself up, Hamilton, because I got your lady. I got your friend's friend lady.
And
so
this does not seem to like affect the plan of Peter Stomare whatsoever.
No.
They're just like, all right, well, we're still a go for bombarding this base ourselves and getting there before the U.S. does. The only thing that he changes is he calls up the Swede IA and says, like, hey, send someone to my house. I think my lady love's in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
As it turns out, not necessary, because Tessie immediately grabs the syringe full of the deadly KGB poison when Barbaros has his back turned, and she just gets him in the neck. And there's like a brief moment where they like run into the gun room and they grab machine guns, but again, not needed because he just succumbs to the poison. And that's the end of that villain.
Well, before he completely succumbs to the poison, she does like hold the gun on him.
Yes.
But he has like this look as blood's curdling out of his eyes, and he just says, please. This movie's fucking dark.
Yeah.
This is a very dark movie.
And I wonder if that was meant to be. So it's like, okay, so now his girlfriend understands what the type of situations that Hamilton has to be in, because she also had to shoot a man in the head, a man that she moments earlier poisoned with deadly poison or whatever. She also shoots him in the head, and then like there is no blood spatter whatsoever.
Well, I mean, they're gonna be tearing down that room later on, anyways.
Yeah.
I think the only difference is that this man was actually begging to be killed.
Right.
Everyone else is begging for their life.
So yeah, it is definitely off.
Yeah, I now know what you have to go through every day, Peter Stomare. No, you don't.
We weren't originally going to put carpet in this room.
Yeah.
We will now.
Yeah.
There will be carpet in this room now.
Had Peter Stomare been there, he would have done everything in his power to keep that man alive and suffering to the end of his day for as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, so they got out of that no problem. It's not even a problem for them.
Doesn't break your stride.
They don't even break a sweat.
Yeah.
And then back in Libya, there's lots of explosions going on. Lots of people are dying. It's the end of the movie, so it's finally like an all-out assault
Mark Hamill gets away when one of the people is driving away on a Jeep. He says, wait, stop. And instead of just like, hopping into the Jeep with the guy who's clearly trying to get away, he shoots him and commandeers the vehicle himself. I don't know. And yeah, that's when Peter Stomare makes himself known and lures Mark Hamill into a minefield. And I was
very conveniently by standing in front of the only sign that says minefield.
It was a real fucking Wile E. Coyote kind of way to go.
It really is, because he steps out of the way and Mark Hamill has a moment where he's all like, boo.
Yeah. He stops into the minefield, but nothing goes off, so he's like, oh, thank God. And then, yes, much like a Wile E. Coyote bit, something falls out of
his gun falls out of the car.
And triggers the mine.
Yeah.
And cool guy walks away from explosion.
It's literally the poster of the poster of the movie is Peter Stomare in a white t-shirt walking away from explosion and not looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should have just been like a bead of sweat that came off of like Mark Hamill's thing that just like falls on a mine and it blows him up. Yeah. So Mike Hawkins has been exploded. Hamilton runs back to the base where Aki is trying to disarm the warhead, but he gets shot in the hand.
Yep.
And so Hamilton has to make the ultimate sacrifice. Get out of here! I'm the one that's gonna. I'm the title character of this movie.
I want you to get out of here. That's an order. And okay, well now lesson learned. Aki's actually gonna follow orders. That's a good way to close that character.
This definitely won't come back in an ironic way.
Yeah. But it turns out that Mark Hamill survived the explosion, and he's all burnt to a crisp.
He's all crispy or whatever.
And he's in a fighting spirit, but...
So,
oh, sorry.
It is at this moment that I want to bring up some trivia on the IMDb page for Hamilton. This is one of the best pieces of trivia I have ever read for any movie, hands down. While filming the climactic fight scene, Mark Hamill was told a punch he'd thrown at Peter Stomare's face didn't look convincing and was asked to swing lower and closer. On the next take, Hamill did so and accidentally hit Stomare for real. In a making-of documentary, Hamill is visibly shocked by the accident, which he says split Stomare's lip and caused his face to swell up.
Aww.
In a 2021 interview, Stomare revealed that one of his teeth was knocked out, forcing him to go to the hospital. He has despised Hamill ever since.
Oh no!
Calling him a real idiot who never apologized. For me, he's a shithead, and he'll always be a shithead. He's in my black book.
Oh my God, that's awful!
I wonder if Mark Hamill goes to bed at night
knowing
somewhere out there Peter Stomare is still mad at him. Well, I wouldn't want that guy to be mad at me.
Well, I think there's a wood chipper in Mark Hamill's future.
Yeah, there's like a longer version of that quote where Stomare is all like
all laced in like Swedish curse words and everything.
Like we had like a couple of other days left to film on the set, and for all of them, he never looked me in the eye. At the premiere of the movie, he never looked me in the eye.
Yeah.
So I guess like if I had to guess, I would guess like Mark Hamill was like really crestfallen that he had done that, and I think it was just like an awkward situation for everyone.
Sure.
And he probably, I have to imagine, he probably thought he apologized.
Yeah.
But clearly it wasn't good enough for Peter Stomare, because that dude's fucking dead to him.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Not yet. You're not.
Oh my God. I just love that. He's a shithead. He'll always be a shithead.
Oh my God. I mean, that was like 100 years ago, Peter Stomare. It was an accident. Get over it.
But anyway, that's that.
But yeah,
scene.
anyways, Mark Hamill's run over by a Jeep. Aki comes back and he hits him with the Jeep, and then
he hits him with the Jeep, and he grabs Hamilton. He says, like, you should know I never follow orders. He hits Mark Hamill with the Jeep, and then the disarmed nuclear warhead falls on him, and he's crushed. He's hoisted by his own petard.
Yes.
He's crushed by the thing that he was trying to do himself.
Yeah.
And
then the U.S. shows up and they bomb the shit out of the camp.
Well, no, they don't. Like, Hamilton blows up the camp, and then the Americans are all like, oh, the camp already blowed up. We don't need to blow up the camp because the camp already blowed up. And everyone on the ship is going like, oh, the camp blowed up. And Texas Slim is going, phew, well, out of the movie now.
And then some CGI barrels fly towards the screen, and there's some CGI planes.
It's pretty bad.
Like, what the all right. No CGI right up in this movie at all, right up until that point.
And then the final scene is Hamilton back at the Sweet IA, and everyone is giving him applause, and he walks into a room.
And Aki's all cool, like all is resolved.
Everyone's friends again, and he walks into the back room, and Tessie is there, and he gives her a big big old smooch, and
then
he
he-
notices everyone's looking at them, so he turns the lights off.
Yeah, and then I guess the Sweet IA is just cool with them fucking in their war room.
He's been through a lot.
Yeah.
He's been through
He's
quite
learned
the past couple of days. He's been through quite a bit.
He's learned to love again. He beat radiation poisoning.
That we know of.
Yeah.
That could be a reveal for the sequel.
Mm.
And that's Hamilton.
It certainly is. Is there anything that we didn't mention that we want to talk about here?
There's a neat little bit of set dressing when they're in Libya, where there's an unimportant character who shown wheeling a motorcycle that's covered in ram's heads.
Oh,
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Just covered in sheep's heads.
Yeah.
Again, I wanted more Libya. I wanted the majority of the movie to be there. Like maybe have like the rush. If you're cutting this down for a TV movie length, if you're cutting it down from the 3-hour version, have maybe like 20 minutes of the Russia thing. Don't have so of the mission where he kills everybody. Have that be like a little smaller. Cut the Russian section of the movie basically just like down to the scene where he infiltrates the apartment building and has to escape through the garbage chute, and then just like add back in all the Libya stuff that you cut out, because I think that's the most interesting part of the movie.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
definitely visually the most interesting part of the movie, because again, it reminds me of Laser Mission.
Yeah, it's the only other part of the movie that's like not in like a snowy hellscape.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that during the day and we can actually tell what's going on.
All right. I actually have 3 things that I want to mention.
Okay.
I can kind of tie 2 of them together.
Great.
So, I want to take to task the level of secrecy that goes on between these organizations. So, as he's firing up his Windows 98, he goes to the CIA website, which says, "Welcome to the CIA," and I guess you can just look up agents. Like, they just have like an entire roster of all their assets or whoever just like up for viewing pleasure to anybody that wants to look at it.
If that's the actual CIA website, that might be like, like
a movie thing.
That's like the CIA website that the CIA wants you to see. This is the actual CIA website is on like a server,
But that's
in
what-
like Minsk or something.
But that's what he fires up when he wants to get info on fucking Barbosa.
Sure, but he's also a secret agent, so I imagine secret agents might have
Okay.
to know. I don't know. I'm just coming up
Sure.
with answers to this, but I don't have answers to any of these questions.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that after he comes back from the Russian tundra, after burning all those corpses and everything, he's besieged by some people in the media, like some reporters. And I'm like, wasn't this a covert operation? How is this getting leaked to the press? And they're asking him, "Oh, do you think you're going to get like the Russian Medal of freedom for all your..."
He does get a Russian medal that he like turns down at a certain point, because I guess this was like a covert operation. I don't know. Swedish Julian Assange.
Sure.
That's the only thing I can think of.
And the last thing that I want to mention briefly here.
Wiki Swedes.
Yeah, oh, that's pretty good, actually. When Peter Stomare meets Mark Hamill for the first time in his office, Mark Hamill's chatting with the secretary, telling her to double space everything.
Yeah.
And then she goes, please get us some coffee or get us the info that they asked for. As she's leaving, Peter Stomare is blatantly checking her out.
Oh,
Did you
wow.
catch that?
No.
No.
Maybe that was just like a character choice. Maybe Hamilton has a wandering eye.
No.
Yeah.
Tessie
Maybe
better watch out.
He just can't turn the scumbag off. He's just
Yeah.
like he has to constantly remind himself over the course of this movie. No, I'm a good guy.
Maybe I can beat her at risk.
I'm a good guy in this. Yeah. So Hamilton, did you think it had a certain something, or did you find it to be a whole lot of nothing?
It certainly has the moral dilemmas between Aki and the men executing those guards. Like, that's this movie's certain something. The tension that it leads with, among the people of the Sweet IA and Hamilton navigating through all that. I thought that was quite interesting. The movie drags a shit ton, but those character moments, I think, elevate the movie. And also, Mark Hamill is just amazing in this movie.
Yeah, I definitely. Mark Hamill is the reason to watch this. I mean, this brings up an interesting thought that I had. This isn't related to Hamilton. I know I'm getting off track here, but we like to think about the people that we've covered over multiple movies and induct them into like the Nothing Movies Hall of Fame. Does that count for people we've done miniseries on, though? Because this is the 4th time we've done Mark Hamill, but should we count that?
I don't know. I feel like the people who should get into the Hall of Fame are just people who aren't the focus of the episode, but just naturally and frequently crop up.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah. So sorry, Mark.
Mark.
You have to pop up in more movies.
Yeah. Consolation prize, you had 3 movies where you were the sole focus of, and we're singing your praises in this one. So, like, you get a lot of love out of this podcast.
This is a better performance than he gave in Comic Book of the Movie. We will say that. Yes.
That wasn't even a performance. That was Mark Hamill just geeking out at Comic-Con.
I think he likes to think he gave a performance in that.
He certainly does.
I think he's under the impression that he was giving a performance.
No, I'm not Mark. I'm not being myself. I'm Don Swan.
I cannot believe you remember the name of that character.
It's such a dumb name. How could you forget it?
Yeah, I thought this was really boring. I paused this movie a ton. This was a real 3 loads of laundry movie for me.
Okay.
I found reasons to take breaks throughout this, and it's definitely a movie that's more fun to talk about than it is to actually watch. Because when we sit down, like the course of the conversation we've just had, there are things that we are describing that sound like they could be fun and interesting, and kind of in a vacuum, they're kind of interesting if you just watch them on your own. Watching this as a movie from beginning to the end, I was quite bored. I was quite bored with this, and I was, I didn't really like it.
Okay, well, I mean, just by how the poster was depicting this movie, how the trailer came off, it just seemed like, okay, this is going to be like a direct-to-video kind of actioner with Peter Stomare in the Jean-Claude Van Damme role in any number of cookie-cutter actioner movies, whatever. That's not what this movie was. And I thought the dramatic stakes of it elevated a little bit for me. I don't know, subverted expectations, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's the nicest thing I could say about this movie.
But it was definitely interesting seeing Peter Stomare in a lead role, and I still love him.
Oh, yeah.
He is absolutely one of those actors that anytime he pops up in anything, I'm happy to see him.
Sure, yeah.
He always brings a crazy energy to whatever he does.
Absolutely. And, we were talking about, like, just the amount of stuff he's in. I'm also kind of surprised that he's not in more stuff. I'm surprised he hasn't been in, like, a Marvel thing yet.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a poison. Maybe that's a poison chalice that he doesn't necessarily have to drink from. You know what? If there ever was a time to jump onto the Marvel train, it's right now. And also, Jameson, he played Whiplash in an episode of Phineas and Ferb.
How could I forget?
How could we forget? So he's part of the universe.
Maybe he's more of a DC guy. Sounds like it.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, he did Arrow, so he's done live action DC, but not everyone needs to be in a superhero movie.
Nope.
But Peter Stomare, we love you, and it was great to talk about you. And this was Hamilton.
Yeah, please don't murder us.
Please don't. Yes.
Please don't feed us to a wood chipper.
Absolutely, yes. We know you hold a grudge.
Hey, we're no Mark Hamill, all right? I would pull my punches with you.
If I punched Peter Stomare in the face, I would apologize profusely.
I would change my identity.
I
would fake my death.
I would apologize every day until he knew how sorry I was. And that's probably what Mark Hamill should have done.
Especially now that we know he holds a grudge.
100%. Also, he's a little older now, so I don't know how well he can take his punches. But anyway, that was Hamilton, directed by Harold Svart. If you like this episode, please listen to our back catalog of episodes. We have so many. We have so many of them. Over 100.
They're all great.
They're all of them are
not a stinker in the bunch.
The same quality as this one. If you go further back into our back catalog there under the title of The Fuck Is This? It's the same podcast. We're just talking about a movie. We're just having fun. We're just two boys. We're just having a laugh. You can follow us on all the social media. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever the fuck you call it now. Facebook, that's one of those, right? We'd like to thank Eddie Lamb for his fantastic theme music. Check out his amazing new podcast, especially episode, I forgot the episode you're on.
9, I think.
Episode 9,
Yeah.
the best one.
It certainly is.
He's got a great
number 9 and feeling fine.
He's got a great guest on that one. But you can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
I'm Jameson Rafter, and in the immortal words of Peter Stomare, I said if he cut off your Johnson!